Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 4160. Today's date is July 18, 2026. It's been almost like a night at almost like a 10:24 p.m. Little bit rain is actually pouring, and because of this thing, it's little bit of uncomfortable to record Artifact. But actually, I just had a very heavy dinner. And because of this thing, it's really essential for me to kind of like walk. If I didn't really walk, yeah. And also is this thing, my health right now is not really good. I'm actually suffering from little bit cold, not too much, just a little bit, and it's not really that much. I just took the paracetamol, it's fine. So yeah, all right, let's just jump into the question. All right, let's go. All right, so question is, wait, where is question? All right, yeah, what is the first version supposed to do? Oh, that is a really good question. All right, yeah, what is actually first version? Okay, first of all, what is at least this question and why am I asking this question to myself? I wanted to build a AI that could predict the future. Okay. Before I wanted to build this particular AI that could predict the future, I wanted to understand all the possible consequences. I wanted to, sorry, aware of all the possible consequences. So I went to ChatGPT. I tell my idea, tell my app idea. Also tell him that he suggests me hundreds of all possible consequences in question format. ChatGPT kind of like suggests me hundreds of question. This is one of those question. Sorry. Now regarding about this question says that what is actually first version supposed to do? First version means like that how do you supposed to like basically is this thing when you try to establish a kind of like a AI or things and that you are not kind of like establishing all at once. You have to kind of like a launch at kind of like version by version or first version or second version, entry level kind of like things, that how it should supposed to be work, what is actually first version should supposed to be do and things and that's kind of like only initial step. Okay, so how it should supposed to be first version it's supposed to do? Well, I was actually thinking that let's kind of like a separate the Adam and Adam simulation. Okay, what is actually that? Wait, actually na, there is a kind of like a something that key, if I didn't really work out na, I feel like a really not so good. Like whenever I didn't really did work out, my stomach is kind of like a feel like a kind of like I'm carrying a lot of load in my stomach. Okay, I don't know why. All right, yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, first initial kind of like a something that key, how do we supposed to be first version should supposed to be? Okay, so I was actually thinking that he kind of like a Adam has a kind of like a two version. Okay, first is a Adam, okay, and another is a Adam simulation. But the problem is that it's not a kind of like a something about that which version should I supposed to be kind of like a something enroll for the people and things and that. First of all is that na, it's not a kind of like a typical AI that could kind of like I have a data, kind of like a use kind of like a multiple thousands of GPUs, kind of like establish a kind of like a data center and kind of like execute the prompt and things and that. Like it's not my thing and I will not gonna execute the way it should supposed to be. No, I like there is a one thing that I have to be kind of like understand regarding about this particular stuff is that key I have to be run Atom in quantum computer. Now, why I should supposed to be run on quantum computer? Because it's a simulation program. Okay, simulation cannot able to be run on a classical computer. It can run on classical computer, but it's not like basically the millions and millions of consequences cannot able to be figured out by classical computer. It might gonna take me kind of like a something months or kind of like a years to execute one single prompt. Okay, it's not really possible. So I have to be use a quantum computer. Okay, now the problem is that we have quantum computer. Okay, we kind of like establish a chips, we kind of like have quantum computer which are ready to execute and things and that. The problem is that the um, probably when I will kind of like try to implement that thing, I have to figure it out that how do I supposed to be Atom will talk to the quantum computer. That is a very much essential first step. It's sorry. It's a kind of like a try to understand that can we able to be run those kind of like a possible millions of possible consequences in things and that it's a very difficult task. Okay, and like basically it's a kind of like a bit more technical point of perspective, so I am not really aware of that how do I supposed to do this thing. Okay, but couple of things. Okay, Atom will not only just run on quantum computer, it also run on GPU too. Okay, yeah. A combination of quantum computer and GPU. Why GPU? Okay, because I think I might need it. I'm not really sure, but kind of like I need a GPU plus kind of like a something quantum computer to execute this thing. But another thing is that like I'm talking about this particular stuff now, it's a kind of like a way ahead of the time, like a way ahead, like basically not way ahead, but right now I don't really have any experience regarding about how do I supposed to do that thing. Like couple of things that I knew how do I supposed to do this thing, but okay, let's talk about that. Okay, so first of all is that I have to be kind of like a something create a kind of like a I will gonna hire kind of like a people who are kind of like a really good at kind of like a AI researcher, philosopher, things and try to kind of like a build Atom, like build Atom. Okay, that how do we supposed to build and things and that. Okay, like basically just are we like like do we can we kind of like ensure that are we supposed to be do this thing or not. Okay, yeah, understand the possible consequences that if it kind of like a simply execute the prompt or execute the scenario, how many simulation will gonna happen, how the scenario will gonna things and that, what it look for and things and that, what is actually rule it follow, what is actually rule it shouldn't supposed to be follow and things and that. There is a lot of stuff to kind of like a figure it out. Okay, and another thing is that I even like at the beginning I was actually thinking that Atom is a kind of like somebody before I execute the Atom for publicly, I cannot. Okay, like maybe just like that I will kind of build a kind of like a one data center. Okay, on one data center to kind of like execute that are we supposed to be do this thing or not. Okay, not too much. Okay, not too much big data center, just small tiny one. Okay, and also my target users are not a kind of like a target user, like basically it's this thing the full-fledged Atom will kind of like establish when I have to be kind of like a put the data center on the space. Okay, because this is the only way that I could able to be execute the Atom, because Atom kind of like a run millions of scenarios and things and that. It only run on quantum computer, which really required a kind of like a absolute zero temperature, almost minus 270 degree. How do I supposed to maintain that temperature on surface of planet Earth? Obviously I can't. It's far more easier for me to kind of like a maintain this kind of like a temperature on the surface, on the space. so that I would kind of like control the temperature, okay, minus 273 degree, so that it would be kind of like a much more better. And also when I build the data center on space, I don't really have any kind of like something required for permit and things and that. Also regarding about the like a cooling, like I just have to kind of like a radiate or maybe kind of like add a little bit of cooler, but still it's a bit more convenient than building a data center on surface or building a data center on space. Building a data center on space is just far more convenient, okay, probably, okay. But also another thing is that na ki my initial thing is that ki not to establish or not to execute the Atom for mass people, definitely not. Probably at the beginning I would be kind of like a simply allow a kind of like a organizational or kind of like a government people to run on the simulation and things and that. It's not a kind of like a something the AI that could kind of like somebody generate the image and kind of like a summarize your email and things and that. No, for that particular purpose you have a Gemini, ChatGPT, things and that. Like like Atom is specifically for a kind of like a something simulation program, okay, and simulation takes so much amount of time, okay. like like basically is this thing, if the quantum computer is a kind of like a somebody executing the scenario like a thousands of scenario, it will gonna take so much amount of time, okay. So how much time, I'm not really sure, okay, probably kind of like hours and things and that. Yeah, literally hours, because it kind of like a, and hours is a kind of like one of the max speed, okay, because I'm using quantum computer, that's why I'm kind of like getting that result within hour, okay. If I'm using classical computer, I just have to wait for a month to kind of like get my scenarios and kind of like some consequences and simulations and yeah. So basically is this thing that yeah, I just have to use the, but still na, like it's a very empty word, okay. Yeah, like I'm kind of like using so many kind of like a big word for I will gonna do this, I will gonna do that, I will gonna do that and that without realizing the kind of like a reality base and things and that. It's a like like as I mentioned na, I am like basically the confidence actually came when I kind of like implement that thing. And obviously I will alone not gonna build that AI, okay. I'm not a researcher, I'm not any kind of like a things, okay. I need a kind of like a particular system or particular people who are kind of like a somebody work on that thing and that. There is a one couple of things that I would gonna do right now to kind of like somebody making sure that ki the Atom should supposed to be run properly and things and that, okay. So let's talk about the people, okay. So when I will gonna build a kind of like a Atom, whatever the kind of like a decision like basically is this when you try to kind of like make such an Atom regarding about how it should supposed to work and things and that, whatever the kind of like somebody the me and team will kind of like took the decision regarding about how it should supposed to be, Atom should supposed to work and things and that. I will gonna hire a one particular person. That particular person has a one job to kind of like said no to me regarding about every decision that team will gonna do, I will gonna do. He has a kind of like only one job, that always disagree with every decision that team does. Disagree, yeah. Like even if the kind of like somebody the decision is kind of like a noble or whatever it is, that particular person always have to be a kind of like a disagree with me or disagree with the, like it has to be saying no, even if it has to be saying no, he has a kind of like a job, he has to say no, okay. And he have to kind of like show me a kind of like evidence, like okay, let me tell you one thing. So let's just say a kind of like we decided that me like I am the kind of like some chairman of the company and kind of like a bunch of people who are there, and we decided that ki for the execution of Atom, we should supposed to be established data center in a space, okay. Yeah. Now this is a kind of like somebody I agree with this decision, entire team will agree with decision. Now this particular person, even if he agree, he kind of like say no, I am not agree with the decision. Now why okay, why I am kind of like hiring that particular person who always say no, okay. I need because of that na ki I need a kind of like a check on me. Okay, because I don't want to take any kind of like a decision at the spur of the moment, or anything kind of like a feels like right. I don't want to take that decision. I wanted to hire that particular person to kind of like a said no to me. And why is that? Because when he said no, he has only one job to say no, and also kind of like a showing the evidence that why are we not go with that decision. Always find the flaws. Like basically is this thing, this particular person will always kind of like a flaws in our plan or in our execution process. Like he might gonna say no, if we kind of like do this thing, this might gonna happen. If you wanna do this thing, this might gonna happen. He has to be kind of like somebody research and things, and he has to always say no and kind of like show me the evidence that ki why we shouldn't supposed to be go with that decision, that and that. Why? Because of that, this particular person will kind of like somebody help me to kind of like not to do the mistake that will gonna happen in the future. Because this particular person will kind of like always gonna analyze regarding about my decision, that am I doing really well or not, or things and that and that. This particular person will kind of like check that, okay, is this kind of like some decision is kind of like a right for the people or things and that and that. He always check, he always check, he always check and always say no to me. Okay, yeah. But dude, if that particular person kind of like always say no, then how do you kind of like something execute any kind of like some operation? Well, basically it's this thing, as a chairman of the company, I have a kind of like a somebody bypass his decision. Okay, because when like basically let's say I kind of like decided, me and my team kind of like decided that let's execute the data center in space, set up this thing. But this particular person says no. He kind of like show the evidence and things and that and that, and we kind of like simply correct our implementation plan. We kind of like correct that key. Okay, because of this particular thing, we kind of like correct the implementation plan. Okay, yeah. After I correct, and then I kind of like say, okay, whatever the kind of like wrong, whatever the kind of like things that you have, I kind of like fix that thing. Okay, yeah. Then I will try to agree. Okay, but he still is gonna say no. Okay, yeah. But I already kind of like solve everything, like whatever the kind of like a clause or flaws that he found, I kind of like fix everything, right? Okay, yeah. So he should supposed to be say yes, right? No, he always say no. Even if he agree, he always say no. Okay, yeah. But when the kind of like a things that ki, okay, I'm kind of like a completely fine and things, I'm completely say like, are you really agree? Do you have kind of like a proper evidence to, for say this thing no or things and that? If you want a kind of like a little bit amount of time to kind of like figure it out, the kind of like implementation plan regarding about that, do we supposed to be kind of like somebody execute in such a way that it gonna it will gonna execute right or things and that. Okay, yeah. And if he kind of like somebody that he don't really have any kind of like somebody reason to kind of like somebody find the flaws and things and that, then he still say no. Okay, yeah. But I have a kind of like somebody power that key bypass his decision and execute the implementation plan. So this is a kind of like a things, because I need a kind of like a one particular person is checked on me. Okay, because I don't want to take any kind of like a decision at the spur of the moment and things and that, because Adam is a kind of like a thing that key it is a very like a very kind of like assembly. It will gonna impact a lot, like it will gonna impact on the entire humanity and things and that. And obviously this kind of like a things is really, yeah. And also regarding about this particular person, I am not really sure about this kind of like a designation, and like I'm not really sure about this particular thing, but I am actually thinking that ki this particular person is important than everyone. Like it is kind of like a far more important than me. Okay, yeah. Because even if I'm the chairman, even if I'm kind of like agree with this thing, my decision is not kind of like a matter. His decision is actually matter. Because when he say kind of like a no, he always say no. He always say no, even if he kind of like he has a job to say no in every kind of like a things and implementation plan and things and that. Just only one thing that I'm kind of like a checked and things and that, so that I would not gonna do any kind of like a stupid decision things and that. But there is also another problem. Okay, if that particular person always kind of like say no, then problem will gonna happen that key it will gonna take time to implement, right? Right. I am kind of like agree with this thing. Like let's take a kind of like a little bit amount of time to kind of like assembly just find the flaws and things and that, but also making sure that na ki those flaws are not a kind of like some such a stupid flaw, like have a kind of like a legit flaws, like he should supposed to be find a kind of like a very legit reason that why he's a kind of like a stopping or why he's kind of like a say no and things and that. If his reason is not really genuine, and I feel like that ki, our team feel like that ki, no, it's a kind of like a reason is not really genuine, so we will bypass his decision and kind of like a execute the implementation plan. Okay, so yeah, Rahul. uh so this is I would gonna do the first version of the Adam should supposed to be, I cannot tell you regarding about how which first version would be and how and things and that. There are so many kind of like a things I have to figure it out. Okay, because like right now I don't really have that many information to kind of like give you any practical answer or any kind of like answer. So yeah, all right, I have to bend here. This is it. Thank you.